Welcome to the 12th edition of the Toronto Film Festival, created by Fabien Colas Foundation and presented by TD in collaboration with Global News. The Toronto Film Festival runs from February 14 to 19, 2024, online and in person. You can find the complete program and grab your online all-access pass, in-person pass, and individual tickets on torontoblackfilm.com. Thank you all for joining us, and my name is Ladan Ali. By day, I am the coordinator of the Mentorship International Development at the CNPA. At night, I moonlight as a poet and comedian. I'll try to be serious, though, because it's serious work. I have the distinguished honor of moderating the discussion that will be taking place in a little moment. But before we begin, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Okay, so the panel today is entitled Career Path, the skills of a strong line producer. I am going to try so hard not to do this when I say strong line producer. I really want to. I may do it just
by strong.
Where it's the strong. I googled everything about line producing. Oh my God, it's not an easy. But we'll get into it in this discussion. Join our panel of accomplished line producers as they unveil the intricacies of their profession, offering insights into the vital discussions that shape the final product. Discover the often unseen power that is line producers wield, and gain a deeper understanding of their indispensable contributions to the entertainment industry. I am sure everyone is just waiting to hear from our esteemed guest. So without further ado, let's get to it. Or what you professionals say, action on set. I had to. I will start off with the introduction questions for folks tuning in who are really trying to grasp what line producing is. So without further ado, we have the pleasure of speaking with Fona Seydu.
Yeah.
Seydu?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Seydu, sorry. Virender Paul Singh and Teresa M.H.O. I made up a whole name, Teresa. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So producer Fona Seydu. Fona Seydu burst into the film industry in 2018 and since then worked on 20 plus projects, including Canadian Screen Award winning Being Black in Toronto, which is an awesome series, and CBC's Virgins, East Africa. Wow. I was like, I've never been more represented till I saw that show. It was awesome. As a Black queer producer, Fona champions narrative projects with compelling storylines and niche audiences. So welcome, Fona.
Thank you.
Okay. Production manager and line producer Virender Paul Singh. Virender Paul Singh has been line producing for several years and directed Laurie in 2022. I saw the teaser for that. It was very compelling, which was a family drama exploring gender roles in a traditionally Punjabi household. He's produced multiple short films and documentaries, which has culminated in producing a feature film called Jersey Boy in 2023. Welcome, Virender.
Hey.
And last but certainly not least, we have Teresa, producer Teresa M.H.O. Teresa is looking to expand her reach as a producer in all markets and platforms. Recently, she executive produced on CBC Gem 9-episode rom-com short form series called Hello Again, created by Simu Liu, which is awesome, and Natalie Younglei. Previous TV credits include the upcoming Lionsgate series Grey, directed by Ruba Nada and starring Patricia Klarskin, the Patricia Klarskin. 4 seasons of CBC's Frankie Drake mysteries and 2 seasons of Chorus Departure. She also managed the hit Netflix series Anne with an E, classic Canadian television show, and multiple units on NBC's Universal reboot TV series Heroes Reborn. Her expertise in business and finance brings a practical tone to the creative voice while producing quality programming. As the entertainment business continues to change and evolve, Teresa has adapted and shifted her focus from supporting other content creators to developing and producing screen-based projects under her own banner, 100 Dragons. When Teresa isn't racing around sets, you can find her racing around the tennis courts working on her service game. Is that how you do it? Service game? Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on what it takes to become a strong line producer. So I'm going to start off with Fona, because I just really want to give people like an introduction to what line producing is and why line producing. So how is it critical? So first, why and how and what is line producing, and how crucial is it to have a strong line producer on set?
Yeah, I'm sure folks can. I would love to pass it over to other folks as well, because I consider myself as like a baby line producer. But I feel like with line producing, to me, when I think about it, it is partially curating teams. I love matchmaking and finding the right HODs to work together. But I also find that it's a great like bird's eye view of everything that's going on the production. You can know what's happening just using a few spreadsheets, and you're like I'm figuring out what everything is. But I'm happy to pass it to other folks that can talk more about like the actual like job description of line producing.
Okay, everyone's going to answer this question.
Great.
All right, Teresa, do you want to answer why and what is line producing?
Well, I think it's line producing. It's so funny. I saw a meme at one point. It's like, what your friends think you're doing, what your parents think you're doing, and then what you're actually doing. And it was a cowboy riding a cat, herding other cats. So you're basically herding cats. But yeah, there's many aspects of producing, and line producing is pretty much the person on the front lines of producing. And why they call it line is because you're responsible for the above the line as well as the below the line.
Okay.
So, and the why, because I'm a little crazy. You have to be a little crazy to be wanting to do this, but it's also, I love supporting the creative. I love supporting the logistical, and that's what the line producer is. The basically the front person who supports both the creative aspects of a film and television production, as well as the logistical aspects of a film and television. And so that's kind of why you need to know everything, and be there for everyone.
Yeah, that makes sense. It feels like you're just pulling two ways all the time. That's awesome.
Sure.
But it's not for everyone. It's not for the faint of heart. Thanks, Teresa. That was an awesome answer. Verinder, so why and what is line producing in your terms?
Right. So we all like come up with stories. We have a beautiful polished script that's gone through many iterations, and now you're like, okay, how do I make this? So there's all these documents that are there in written form, a budget. You're looking at all these documents. You're like, okay, now we've got to actually be practical and actually make this happen. And I guess that's where a line producer comes in. You're taking an idea, and now you're going to translate that into something that's going to be real, tangible, and that requires humans, and we got to hire people. And in that, you have to find out, can we do it within? It's always the game of resources. We have this much money, and these are the people you're going to hire. So then, according to that, you're going to have to go through a pool of people that fit that requirement. So I think it's. The answer is why line producing. It's if you like complex 4-dimensional chess of human personalities and trying to juggle multiple things at the same time. I guess if you gravitate towards that, then this is your job.
Okay, so a people pleaser would not have a great time in your position.
No,
I'm saying a hearing. Okay, no. So I guess I cannot become a line producer. Okay. Extreme. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for those answers. They were very insightful. So as a line producer, also, you yield so much power in the hiring process of crew, like you mentioned, Verinder. What avenues do you utilize to create a more diverse cast and crew in all aspects of, I guess, filmmaking?
So I guess it's okay for me to answer, right? Yeah. Sure. I think this is a long term. This entire industry is based on relationships. You have to be networking all the time. You're always constantly looking at people's skill sets, and in that, like say in some capacity, you're working for someone. My mind will never shut off from thinking, okay, who's the best at what they do, and then eventually I'm going to pull from that resource. I mean, pending if they're available. But that's what this entire thing is: having a Rolodex of people that you know, and being able to persuade them to come join your show, your movie, whatever that may be, when the time comes.
Thank you. That's pretty helpful. But I also have another follow-up question. I hope Teresa or Fauna can answer this question. So as a line producer, you manage the above the line and the below the line of producing. Since you have I guess the word is power is a little too strong, but you are able to make the choices that ultimately go into making the movie, like choosing the cast member and all that stuff. Do you ever find that do you butt heads with, let's say, the director or the creative because they have a different vision from what you think is practically reasonable or feasible? And how do you go around that? How do you make a project that's feasible, I guess, or practical when there's also the creative aspect of like the writer or the director's vision of a project, if I'm making any sense? Like who gets the final say, I guess? Teresa, can you do that?
Well, I mean, it also depends on scale. You know, on a smaller production, there will be fewer people who, because you can afford fewer people who have a say in a production. Whereas, you know, oftentimes I will do the multi-million-dollar productions with a studio, and the studio has a lot to say, right? Like as a line producer on a studio production, you are in full collaboration with all of the creatives. Okay. And some creatives have a different say over other creatives, and some producers have a different say over other producers. It's navigating the communication and ensuring that you as a line producer understand, is this a creatively driven project or is this a financially driven project? Yeah. And when you know that and you can get that answer from your executives, then you can be able to navigate the pond, so to speak, so that you're not eaten by the sharks.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask without sounding too crass, but
yeah.
Thank you. So, no, that's
definitely collaborative.
Okay. And yeah, no, that's awesome. And Fona, do you have anything to add on that? Like balancing your creative aspect versus, I guess, the bottom line?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I do, it's busy work, unfortunately, but it helps my brain wrap around projects, is that I like to break down the scripts, even probably not draft 1, but like draft 3.5 out of like draft 5. And see what's happening in terms of the budget and what is possible. And then work with the creative team to adjust accordingly. Maybe it's like if someone wants a big stunt or something, we'll put more money towards that. And then maybe they get like less background actors in another scene or something like that. So just moving things around where, as like folks have mentioned, like just adjusting accordingly to what is possible. But I also wanted to chime in on the bringing other folks in terms of diversifying cast and crew. I've noticed that when I follow talent labs and workshops and courses and seeing who's graduated from those, I tend to like to keep an eye on who's coming up. And also on-set training. I know that I'm trying to get folks to shadow or learn from other folks while on set. But yeah, those are the ways that I like to also like bring up other folks in the industry.
Awesome. I'm going to segue to a question I wasn't even thinking about, but it's my realm, my world at my day job. Mentorship. How important is mentorship while producing a film? I guess you've kind of alluded to that, Fona, but like as a line producer, how hard is it to mentor an up and coming producer while also sticking to, I guess, the budget, sticking to, like, there's no time. So how do you balance it?
If it's possible, if there was a line producer shadowing mentorship, sign me up. Like I immediately, let me just follow you around to every meeting every day. Because I feel like that's how I would learn the best if I wasn't already working under someone. So I either like to shadow if I can, or if not, then I prefer to like learn on the ground and see what the line producer is doing so that I can ask questions and be like, this may be a dumb question, but it's never actually dumb because you learn a lot. But it also you have to find mentees that are willing to do the work and willing to actually ask you questions. But other folks, do you want to chime in and add to mentorship?
I was going to just mention, yes, it's important to kind of like network upwards, but also like horizontally as well. Like when talking to, I'm part of a producers program right now at Real World, and I gleaned most of my information from, like, we had workshops and all of these opportunities, but it's like the questions you ask your peers, what situations they came across, kind of like, see scenarios that way. And then you kind of are prepared for like situations that you may, like situations just have a tendency to creep up on you. And then if you have that experience bank to pull from, it helps. In addition, I've started an initiative of my own where I'm getting a lot of South Asian filmmakers together as a network, and we're building. So whenever we do a short film, I think short films are amazing in the sense that when you have like small stakes, I guess, on making a film, you can experiment a little bit more. So you bring on people to, shadow you and learn and give them obviously a responsibility. And when they're ready, then you bring them up with you, I guess.
Yeah. No, I love that answer. And Teresa, I'm sure, because I've ran into Teresa a couple of years now, because she does also participate in our mentorship program. How valuable is it to have, because I know in the producing world, I have friends who are producers and they just say, I just wish the person could be in my head. I wish they were just in my head, but it's hard. How do you translate that? I guess my question is, how important is communicating and just, I guess, is it grit, or is it like, what's the like skill set that you think an emerging line producer needs? Is it grit, or is it just tangible? Could they learn from a book? I don't know. Is it something they can just learn, or is it something that they have to just have within them? Like it's
resilience is a big one.
Yeah.
Resilience, because there's a lot of no's in this industry, and you'll encounter probably more no's than yeses. And being able to pick yourself back up after all the no's, and eventually you get the yes. And that's part of the little crazy in me, is like that yes makes your heart soar, and it propels you to keep going. And yes, I've done a lot of mentorship through the CMPA. I think I'm on the 6th mentee now in the last five or so years that I've been participating. And every time I have a mentee, they start through the my 100 Dragons banner production company, where we're doing development. And then oftentimes I'll pick up a show where I'm line producing, and then they'll become my producer's assistant on the show. And from there, it becomes the downloading of my head. Goes like it's all experience, right? It's and I think people often learn better from experience. So giving them the opportunity is the best way to move the needle. And every what I've noticed is everybody who's kind of come through 100 Dragons and then gone through production have all succeeded in the mentee mentor relationship as where they go next. And it part of it is just they have that resilience, because production is hard. Production is grueling. And if you get past that no, and then you get into production, you also then still have to be able to do the 12 to 14 hour days that production becomes. And you just keep moving that little needle forward, so that eventually it becomes second nature, and I will have downloaded my brain to someone, and then they go off and fly off and succeed on their own.
I love that. Okay, emerging producers, come reach out to Teresa. just an FYI.
You got to go through Ladane first, because we're doing the mentorship program.
Okay, thank you so much. That was an awesome answer. But before I move on to something super random, which I'm just probably super curious about and also fearful about, AI and technology, the advent of like emerging technology, how do you keep up with the advancement of technology and also like maintaining your production, because everything is just happening so fast? If anyone wants to speak to that, or is anyone ever, I'm not on production set, so I don't know if there's like robots taking over yet, but I'm curious, I guess. Like, how do you keep up with everything changing so fast and also producing? Do you have to study at night, like a doctor? You know how doctors always have to keep up with medicine? Do you have to also do the same thing as a line producer or producer in general?
I find that right now, honestly, I feel like mostly folks in animation are kind of getting potentially screwed over, or folks that are writing.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that as a film industry, we like to stick to what we know, especially in line producing. We have like Movie Magic and all of the fun programs that we end up using, and it's just a reusing the same things over and over. But if it's changing, I would love to know. But so far, I've seen that it's kind of the same so far.
Okay, thank you for entering that photo, because I did not know. I didn't know that the movie industry likes to keep, especially with line producing. If you could speak more to line producing, because you brought up movie magic making. Sorry, I'm not a professional filmmaker by any sense, a stretch of the imagination. But so what are some introductory like programs you recommend to line producers who are just like brand new or just
super brand new? Excel. If you don't know Excel, I don't know if you should be here.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that out loud. Say it so loud for the people in the back so they're not discouraged when you walk in. So if you don't know Excel, don't join. Okay.
No, it's not going to be fun for people that don't know Excel.
And they can't lie on their resume and just show up.
They could try, but they might get booted after a day or so.
So Excel, at least the basics, like they don't have to be proficient in other programs, but if they know how to use Excel, they can survive, I guess.
I could please folks add other things, but accounting basics, bookkeeping basics.
Yes.
Please do add other things.
Yeah, because line producing is very much the business side of the production, and so your job is to look after that line, right, which is the budget line items. And so if you're number adverse, don't this probably isn't the place for you. However, it isn't really like, do you know how to add? It's more conceptual, right? So it's like, what's the value of that? And if you can discuss the value of something and move money around that way in your head, that's actually a really good skill set to have. And I always think of myself as like, I would really do well on The Price is Right. Because I know part of it is guessing, right? How much is that going to cost? And I'm about to go off on a trailblazing show into the Arctic, where no show has ever filmed there. Can
you speak on that for a good 2 minutes? I want to hear more about the show. And
I can't talk too much about it. It's been announced, so it's actually happening, but NDAs and all that. But it's like how you guess, and are you guessing right? And if you don't guess right, what do you have to lose, because now you have guessed way below your budget, and you're kind of stuck at a number, and how do you navigate that? Can you get more money, or do you just have to change the production plan so that you can afford the show that has been bought by a network, a broadcaster, by a distributor, all of the people who put money into the film or TV.
That is awesome. I also, Vinder, Paul, maybe you can answer this, but so when I want to speak to, I guess I'm always speaking to emerging producers, because I always want to save people their time and like wasted energy if this is not for you or this is for you. What made you decide that I'm going to stick to line producing over, let's say, what other parts of movie making magic is there? Directing. I know you're also a director, but if
there's a thing, you got to try something before you learn. Just want to kind of like bridge the previous question to as well. I started as an accountant, and So definitely numbers was something that I gravitated towards. I've actually taken courses with Teresa for movie magic, and so this whole process of educating yourself, you can't stop doing so. Like um, when it comes to AI or any of these things, like you can't treat that as a threat. Like utilize it as a tool if you can. And then obviously when it gets to the point where it's everything's automated, then the game is over. But till then, use that as a tool. And you try make like, so I had a story in my mind and I wanted to tell it, and I felt like I was the only one who could tell it the way I wanted to tell it, so I directed. But while doing that, I really knew in my heart of hearts that this is not what I want to be doing. I like facilitating teamwork and building a team rather than just like, being tunnel visioned and directing. Like that wasn't for me. And so you kind of like gel your own personality. Like if you like numbers, you like the whole human aspect of personalities, juggling that. If that appeals to you, then you kind of like align yourself to this position, I think.
I'm starting to figure out something. It's like a club. I feel like you all already know each other. It's so cool. Okay, so I have way more tailored questions. If you're okay, are we good with what is line producing? What is line producing? I'm trying to save people time from getting in there, crying, figuring out it's not for them, and it's scary. I think you guys, Fona, Verinder, and Teresa, I think you answered beautifully, and I know a lot about line producing now, and I know I can never do it. Much of a people pleaser, but I give all the onus on anyone who can handle that pressure. Okay, next. So I have a bit more like a tailored questions. So I'll start off with Fona. So you have led over and produced like over 60 projects. In many of your projects, there's a strong element of social justice and social awareness. Taking into account your own experience, do you think it takes a special skill set to work as a line producer in projects that have a strong sense of social justice? Because I'm just keeping in mind things like what came up in the past few years about hair and makeup for like BIPOC folks. So how do you work around, keeping things, I guess I won't say the word, in budget, but if you're going to have to work around the box, it's going to cost more, like outside the system. So how do you maintain your line? I guess I'm learning the speak. How do you maintain your line while also keeping in mind the folks' like needs?
Yeah. So to the first part of your question, I would say one of the unique things about me is that I have like various intersecting identities. And so that allows me to relate to stories with usually social justice messages or creators that just connect with me and feel like they can find a place where I can make sure that their story is being safe and safely taken care of. So it's like relationship building, especially with people with stories where their stories could where things could happen on set and they're triggered, or their voice is not being heard, or all of those other fun things that happen when we're diverse folks. On the practical side, I would say that definitely I grew up in community arts and was raised through community arts. Lots of anti-oppression workshops I've been in, and even just like a basic 101 is probably not enough, but it's a help, it's a step. Being friends and existing around people from different walks of life opens up and allows you as a producer to be able to understand folks, and then also checking in with people's access needs. Yeah. So not only physical access, but basic things like neurodivergence, learning, listening, and working styles. Of course, I'm queer, so I think about pronouns and stuff. Although I didn't include it, but everybody else did in their screen names. Shout out to y'all. And then in terms of thinking about maintaining the lines, that's one of the things when talking about mentorship, when we're talking about bringing people up, is finding those folks that identify accordingly if we can. If I can find some of the awesome Black folks on a project where the creators are I want Black folks as my HODs, then I will. And then if not, then I try to find other folks that I can either be a second on the team. So I'm still maintaining my lines in a sense, because I, of course, am trying to find folks that I've worked with and trust, but also having that comfort of folks that they can identify with on set is important to me. But I'm sure that these two other folks can also relate or add things to this question.
Oh, thank you for that, Bona. Okay, so I have a tailored question for Teresa as well. So I was thinking about the pandemic, and when I think about filmmaking, or I just, for some reason during the pandemic, as I was binging all the TV shows, I'm like, how are people still producing? So I noticed that you were also, maybe Tfona and Vinder can also add to this, but I know you produced during the pandemic. So how did you navigate producing large-scale Canadian and US productions such as Frankie Drake Mysteries, Departure, and Grey, all during this pandemic? Correct me if I'm wrong, they were all during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so how?
Well, how much time do we have?
25 minutes.
I won't take 25 minutes. But I mean, I was on, and I just want to harken back to the beginning stages of the pandemic, because I was in pre-production, having just come back from Costa Rica. I was in pre-production when, and we were building sets in Departure. And I think that was Departure season 2 that I was on. And then we got the word, and that fateful day in March is like, everyone's going home. And I was like, what? But wait, we have a TV show to do. And I'm like, no, it'll be fine. 2 weeks. Cause SARS was like that. And we got through SARS. I was, in Toronto during SARS. And then, after 2 weeks, we didn't go back to work. And, and then eventually it's like, no, this is serious. This is going to be a serious shutdown. And as I recall, one of the things that as a line producer, you have to calculate is what is the impact of something like this, something serious like this that you have no control over, and how do you shut it down, and how can you stop everything? What do you call? What is the insurance? What is insurance going to call it? What and lots of conversation with the executives, insurance companies, all of that. What do we call this? And eventually it was called a force majeure, and Departure was a union show, and we had to all shut down based on what we could call it, because it really also depended on what the government called it.
Yeah.
So we shut it down. Everyone was paid. We had to calculate how much this was going to cost. And at the time, insurance covered it, because that was not something that they ever conceived of not covering. So insurance claim, again, line producer, that's your job, to manage an insurance claim. And from there, we paid everyone off, made our claim, and we were like, whew, okay. I'm like, okay, now I can stop. The next day, I get a call from the executive going, okay, I have the premiere on the line. We're all going to meet and figure out how we all get back to work. So that was my pandemic experience.
Okay.
And, I was supposed to do Departure, then Frankie Drake, and there was a slight overlap that turned into a 3-month overlap. And I had to kind of give up some of Frankie Drake in order to finish Departure. And that 3-month overlap, I think, it was significant, and it impacted. But we all knew that as people were sitting at home watching content, watching shows, it meant that we had to keep making them, and we had to keep working, and we had to keep. And people would stop, and see how long this pandemic lasted, and how long did the shutdowns last. And eventually, what had ended up happening for the industry was like more and more shows were being greenlit, so that it could keep up with demand. And I actually ended up working like 18 months straight to make sure that we have shows for people to watch.
So we were on the couch enjoying all your hard work. Thank you so much. Wonderful years.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, that was awesome. See, we don't think about that until you're actually in this industry.
Yeah.
Like, this is work. Like now when I watch a movie or a show, every scene I look at, I'm like, that is a day's work or whatever. And I'm like, we're just binging it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing is you saw departments grow, right? There became an entire COVID department.
Yeah.
And
were you in charge? Sorry to interrupt, but did you have to foresee any of that? the health and safety, did you have to like navigate that as well as a line producer?
Well, the line producer is in charge of health and safety, right? Like that is to make sure that everyone's concerns are heard, everyone feels safe in the workplace. That is something that we're supposed to lead the charge on. So
wow, three projects during the pandemic. I salute you. I guess that was rough. Do you Vona and Verinder, do you have your own stories from the pandemic? Did you film during the pandemic as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a similar boat. I'm a DGC member, and we were just about to. We had just wrapped a show, a kids television show, and we were just about to jump onto the other one, and this happened. And I mean, I wasn't part of the when we were off. I was off for like 3 to 4 months, but that point onwards, I don't think I also had a break for a good year of just consistent work. It was like. I remember it being so busy at that point. They're like, do you have friends? Do you have anybody who remotely is inclined towards film? Can you bring them on board?
Wow.
Really? That's how busy it became. Yeah, we were all waiting for TV shows. We did nothing else but watch Tiger King, like watch TV all day long.
Right, exactly. And then departments came. Health and safety was a thing, and I saw like on big, studios, the budgets were there was no rules on what. Like everyone was making up things as we were going along. So from one show to another, what worked on one show was exact opposite on the other one. So it was like it was fun navigating that as well, like those rules.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool being a line producer during like a pandemic. Just the health and safety concerns, like who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated, all of that just sounds crazy.
Well, it was if I can add, it was one of those things that at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't feel like a producer. I felt like I was going through medical school really quickly because I had to learn what the terms were, what we had to do, and like talk to the doctors and make sure that we're following the right protocols and rules so that people didn't get sick on my watch. And they don't teach you this in film school. They
might now. They might now. You may have to teach this course at Humber College one day. Who knows? Honestly, insane. But I know it sounds dramatic, but like, what would we have done without television during the scariest time of our lives? So thank you. But no, I think that's awesome. Fona, were you also working on set, or were you producing during the pandemic?
Yeah, we did Virgins through the pandemic. And luckily we had folks ahead of us that were pretty much creating the protocols, and then we just copied them. Or if not, we copied them and then adjusted them based on the scale of which we were working at. So luckily we had like footprints to follow, and we leveraged those for our production and just scaled it down. And the great thing about being a line producer is that you can outsource a lot of help. And so that's what we did. But it was because we already knew that other folks found the help first, and we just tapped into those contacts. So we got it a little easier, or I would say a lot easier, because we had those relationships.
What I'm hearing is the theme of relationships and math in line producing. It's all relationships and math. Like you have to be extroverted and a genius. So I don't know how. Anyways, that's a lot. So Verinder, I have a question for you, a more tailored question toward it. So you have recently line produced a Canadian independent feature with diverse cast from the USA and BC. How has working on shorts given you the skill set to eventually line produce this feature? And sorry, do you mind giving me the name? Are we able to talk about that feature, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's we're still in post, and it's an independent film. So the more I talk about it, the better. No one else will talk about it but myself.
Okay.
I mean, until we get distribution. But it's called Jersey Boy. It's a coming of age story based after 9/11 about a sick boy growing up in New Jersey, and we shot this in Hamilton. That was my first experience working in Hamilton. I'm from Mississauga. I thought it would be an easy transition, but it was different. You've got to navigate, like in this, field. You definitely need to have like locations people that work there, and And if you haven't done any of this stuff on a smaller indie film, you're all learning at the same time while making a movie and burning through money. And so it's not a fun experience unless you're all willing to learn at the same time. As for how did my shorts, like I've been making shorts like simultaneous to my career as a accountant, production manager, and I think every time you make a short, you want to like show it around at festivals, and as you do that, you travel through the U.S., you go to festivals in BC, and you see other people's work. You see fantastic actors, you see other directors, and I think in that space of bringing your short film, you are networking, you're meeting people, and then when the time comes to make a feature film, you're looking at all the contexts you've ever met, like people who were actors, non-actors, anybody, and then you're trying to pool and you're having discussions with your director, with your other producer, for like who do we tap into, and who can we actually afford at this point? And then there's a whole strike going on in the U.S. So with all that, all of those variables, I guess you take all those experiences from your short films, because like all those rules, just like COVID, like with the writer strike and the strike happening on in Hollywood, you can't really tap into like your A level, like whoever you want to it per se, right? Because they're not allowed to work. So in that capacity, you're relying on your experiences, your network, and I think that's what it was. It's just like going back to like 10 years ago, meeting someone and being like, that person would be a great fit.
So you had to navigate around the strike, the writer strike, during the filming.
I mean, the writer strike, not as much. It was more the actors one for us because our writer was Canadian, so we weren't. But a lot of the actors we were trying to like get involved with, they were like, "Well, we can't even like have a conversation, right?" So
yeah. That's... Did you end up going to the Hamilton waterfalls? They're so beautiful.
I mean, we would have if also because of the strike, we were like we were pushing and pushing and pushing, hoping it would be over. And then we're like, okay, now we're in Canada. If we push any further, those waterfalls will become icicle falls, right? So,
no, did you end up shooting there? No way.
No, not at the waterfall. I've shot short films there, but it's beautiful. Hamilton is the waterfall capital.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Oh my God! Thank you so much. I'm learning so much. I also have. I know I've asked you so many questions, but I have just one more question, or I'll say this. Do you have any? No. Sorry, my brain's running around all of these questions I want to ask. Okay. So, what advice do you give to someone who wants to produce, but also isn't really great at, I don't want to say this to sound, isn't really great at numbers, but also wants to produce their own film? Like, is there a barrier to producing if you don't, I guess, don't have the skill set, I guess, in math or just the accounting skill set? Is that something they should shy away from in general?
Well, if I may, there's so many different kinds of producers, right? Like if you watch the screen credits of any production, there's many types of producers, and executives to creative to just general line producers, supervising producers, and so you just got to find your niche. And as Verinda was saying, go through your Rolodex, like who are your friends who. Oftentimes people will come out of film school and question whether they should have gone to film school. But I think film school, if anything, helps build your network and the people who you can collaborate with. And, those people know people. And eventually, over the years, your network grows bigger and bigger. And so if creative producing is where you want to go, then find someone who does love numbers. My creative partner at 100 Dragons, she loves reading, she loves scripts, and so we actually complement our skills. Is that she's the words person and I'm the numbers person, and we've known each other for so long, and that it has become a symbiotic relationship that way. So just find the right people and surround yourself with them.
No, thank you for saying that, because I know I for me, I don't like anyone feeling like they can't do something because of like, let's say, a learning disability or just something they've always struggled with. So thank you for that answer, Teresa. We're almost coming to an end. Does anyone have any closing remarks before we come to wow, we're already at 45 minutes, guys. This was a fast and fun conversation. But yeah, does anyone have any closing remarks on what it takes to be a strong line producer? I had to do it. I had to do it.
Well, you work out.
You have to be strong.
But it's not necessarily working your abs and your biceps. It's work out your brain, work out, if you like talking for a living, line producing is pretty good. You work on your pitch, because basically you're selling every day. You're selling who you want your executives to hire. You're selling whether the crew wants to join you. You have to be able to sell the project you're working on to everybody that you're encountering, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot of people to make a film and television show. So just work on your pitch. I always find my pitch gets more and more refined about a project, and they may not be my projects, but you have to pitch it to everyone you want to engage on your show.
Yeah. So you're not just pitching to executive or networks, you're also pitching to the folks you're going to be hiring.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of pitching. So you have to really be believable, I guess, and like believe in what you're producing.
Exactly. You have to believe, and you have to be happy with what you're producing. So use your projects wisely.
Yeah. Okay. I like to hear that. Okay. That's awesome advice, Teresa. Do you guys have any other advice for folks watching?
I was just going to say that if you believe in a story enough, that you need it to be done, like on a smaller scale, of course, you're going to find a way. I think that you need to develop all these skill sets, and no one should be dissuaded from joining because they don't have all of them. I think if you have the game plan that you're going to do something, you're going to pick up all these things on your journey, and you're going to learn what you need to learn. And then you rely on so many people on it's a team effort, so you do need to rely on other people and resources, and in that sense, I think you should never stop from dissuade yourself from doing something. You just do it, and you'll learn on that journey, and you'll learn what you don't know. I think self-awareness is important too, and then going forward for your next project, you're gonna know what you don't know. Sometimes you don't even, when you get into something and you get a roadblock, and you're like, oh, I actually have no idea how to navigate this. And I think that's where you actually learn something.
Such a beautiful industry. I'm noticing it's about relationships, which is such a great place to be, especially in this isolating society that we found ourselves in with social media. So for anyone who's looking for a community, become a producer of any sort.
Yeah, I just want to just add another thing, an interesting thing. When I first joined the DGC, I walked by a show called Anne with an E, and I think I don't know. I guess this is Teresa's personality. She just, out of curiosity, just asked me to come into her office. I was like a trainee, so there was no reason for me to be there. It just asked me to introduce myself, and it was just like a 2-second thing, but it stood out in my brain as something as in why is a PM interested in getting to know a person who might be on her show for a day. So I think absolutely you need to have that. Just a genuine curiosity and desire to connect with people. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I can tell your mentoring skills are transferable all over. That's awesome. That's so sweet to hear. Thank you for that. I don't know why it's making me super pushy because the world is dark. So thanks for that. But Fona, do you have any advice or I guess closing remarks on, for folks who have never line produced or produced in general? Words of encouragement.
For the baby line producers, I would say one of the things to reflect on is if you're a person who's managing other people's money, you yourself should be able to manage your own money. So do you have a personal budget? Do you stay on your personal budget? If you have... Sorry.
That's hurt right here.
If you are a producer that owns IP and like is a producer who might potentially leverage your assets, if you have any, for a loan or an interim financing, do you have those assets to leverage? So pretty much like if you can't figure out your own stuff, how would other people trust you with theirs? So it's something to think about. And if you're not ready, then it's totally okay. Like, please do work for other folks, learn on other productions, gain those skills, ask questions, and eventually it'll work out, hopefully.
This is perfect. It's a perfect masterclass. Okay, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Fona. That really, the whole personal budgeting thing hit right here.
Yeah.
Planning trips with no, sorry. Thank you so much. It was such a great conversation. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate Fona and Verinder and Teresa for taking the time to speak with us today. I know you guys are super busy working on all these platforms and projects, but honestly, having this conversation allows people to make you guys reachable, I guess, and not scary, and people can reach out to you and ask for advice and potentially work for you guys. And I think this is the only way to make it humanize the film industry.
Yeah,
I guess. So thank you again. Any last remarks from our lovely panelists? Thank you, Verinder Paul. Fona. Am I saying that right, Fona?
Mm-hmm. Like a telephone.
I say that after, right? After the whole hour conversation.
So.
Sorry, my name is hard too, so I feel like I get a pass. But anyways, I also would like to thank Andrea from the Fabian Colas for the honor of hosting a panel at this 12th edition of the Toronto Film Festival. Thank you, everyone. Learned so much. I actually love that you guys already kind of know each other. So folks who are tuning in, don't be scared to reach out to our panelist.
Yeah, and there's a lot of networking events that happen throughout the year. So yes, reach out whenever you get a chance.
Awesome. And you can hear more amazing stories that they're always going to go on and on. I'm like, I'm a moderator. I'm not here for tea. And so thanks. Okay.